announce it. Where's the commissioner? Commissioner.
No, I'm the commissioner.
Oh, man.
I'm the captain.
I know. Maybe laugh. That's dialed in. 7 points.
With the lull in sports, the media is hitting us up with new lists every day, and you know I love a good list. These are usually reserved for late July when everybody's on vacation and you're just trying to fill up some space. But with nothing going on, everybody's ranking players, teams, uniforms. Anything that can be ranked is being ranked. I'm not a fan of the list because they're so subjective. Actually, they drive me crazy. No list has ever changed anybody's mind on anything. It just hasn't. You too often end up denigrating a great player's career unnecessarily because you'll say, well, such and such shouldn't be ranked that high, or he should be in there instead of that guy. ESPN's getting a lot of attention. They have their list of the 74 greatest players in NBA history, this being the 74th year of the NBA. I'm not sure how they rank the players. I don't know what the criteria was. How do you rank the Greek Freak and LeBron against guys who have been retired for decades? The different eras, the different rules, the different styles. There's nothing going on now. I realize that. So I begrudgingly open the show with this list. And I am fortunate. I've said this before. Probably you're nauseous from hearing it so often. I got to see everybody play. I got to see everybody but Bill Russell. Everybody else I was able to see in person. Will Chamberlain saw him in person. Oscar Robertson saw him in person. And that's where it's difficult. I don't know. People will say, boy, that Oscar Robertson, he averaged a triple-double. That's all people know about Oscar Robertson. If he didn't average a triple-double, people wouldn't mention him in the top 10. Now, Oscar had the numbers. Oscar was a dominating force. People don't know anything other than, how many people saw Oscar play with the Royals? Not many, because I went to the games, and no one was there. I was there when they had Bob Cousy. He goes to Milwaukee, and he plays with Lou Alcindor. And you know, Lou Alcindor, Kareem was so dominant back then. They won the NBA title. That's the only title that Oscar has. But we look at Oscar, and not to just single him out, it's just, we're not quite sure what to make of these guys who played in a different time, a different era, different style. Wilt Chamberlain is the most dominating player of all time. Oh, but he didn't win. If Wilt had 6 titles, would Wilt be the greatest player of all time? He led the league in assist, rebound, scoring, field goal percentage. Whatever you said, you know, they should have said, Wilt, you can't win championships. Then maybe he would have done it because individually he did everything. Oh, you're just a scorer. He said, all right, I'll be a defensive player. I'm going to lead the league in assists. When the Lakers were so great when they won 33 in a row, he was a defensive-minded player and a rebounder. That's what he did. He wanted to prove, I can score 50. I don't have to score 50. Jerry West, who I dearly love, Jerry could play in today's game. So when you're trying to figure out, and I know it's supposed to be for entertainment purposes, I unfortunately take it personally because I think when people vote on these, they go, Dirk Nowitzki, yeah, he's better than Bob Pettit. Okay, I don't even know how to argue that. I'll tell you who got shortchanged on this list is Isaiah Thomas. Like, it's open season on Isaiah Thomas. You may not like him, not an easy guy to like, and there's a lot that goes along with Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas is one of the top 20 players of all time. All right? He is. You may not like it. You may say Steve Nash was better or John Stockton. He won at Indiana, and he went in with the bad boys, and they were a dominating force there. Isaiah Thomas is I think he's like 31st best player according to these rankings. 32nd, something like that. Okay. You know, the top 10's got Shaq at number 10, Tim Duncan 8, Larry Bird 7, Wilt is 6, Magic is 5, Kareem 3, LeBron 2, and Michael is number 1 on the list. Let me bring in Chris Mannix. This will calm me down. Hey, Mannix, how are you?
Hey, Dan.
Have you looked at this list? Do you care about this list?
Not especially, but listening to what you're saying, I'm sure I'll disagree because, I mean, look, no disrespect to the Russells and the Rick Barrys and the guys that played in that era. And you can certainly argue that if they benefit from the training of today's game, they'd be different and more improved players. But you're going to tell me that Rick Barry had any shot at doing anything with Russell Westbrook? Like, no way. Like, Russell Westbrook would eat him alive in any competition possible.
Well, no, we're not playing one-on-one here. What are you talking about? If that was Kareem would win this because he would back everybody down and score over them. Like, it's not one-on-one.
Well, I dispute that too. I mean, like, okay, like Kareem, there's ways of winning one-on-one, but that's the. I agree with your sentiment. Okay, but like, do you remember what Russell Westbrook did that first MVP year? Like, that team was bad, and Russell Westbrook went out and propelled them to like 43, 44 wins after losing, arguably the best player in the game. Certainly one of the top 3 in Kevin Durant. I mean, that's a pretty impressive team accomplishment, Dan. Like, to have
Look at the Golden State Warriors when they won the NBA title, Chris. If we're going to make this about Rick Barry and Russell Westbrook hasn't accomplished anything other than, hey, averaged a triple-double. Okay, great. He did it a couple of times. Great. If that's the case, James Harden's one of the top 15 players. I don't. Durant belongs up there. Russell Westbrook is a phenomenon. But he's one of the great players of all time. That he's better than Rick Barry is silly. It is. It's silly.
You think if, like, you plopped Russell Westbrook onto those Rick Barry teams, they'd be worse?
We're arguing one against one here. Is Russell Westbrook one of the greatest athletes to ever play the game? Yes, he is. I'll give you that. Is he one of the greatest basketball players? I guess he's not better than Rick Barry. This doesn't have anything to do with, oh, look at that physical specimen. I'm sure he's better than John Havlicek, your beloved Boston Celtics there. Who would you rather have, Russell Westbrook or John Havlicek?
It just depends on what your...
No, their careers.
It's hard.
Their careers?
Well,
yeah.
John Havlicek, because he won championships.
Okay.
But but my argument is based on championships. And by the way, John Havlicek, pretty good selection of teammates he had around him for most of his career. Like, that was a great team that he was a part of.
Russell Westbrook had James Harden and Kevin Durant, and they didn't want to stay in Oklahoma City.
Well, I mean, we can split hairs on, like, the Harden. I mean, you really want to go back to Harden. Like, of course, at the time he wanted to stay, he wanted to get paid. And privately, Oklahoma City officials will tell you that was the biggest mistake that they made, not maxing out James Harden and going into the luxury tax that year they offered him. That was a catastrophe. That had nothing to do with...
All right, we're getting off track here because I...
Well, hold on. Just one thing, Dan. One thing on this.
Okay.
Real quick. Like, accomplishments. There was a time when averaging a triple-double was like Joe DiMaggio's hitting streak. Like, there was a time when nobody was going to do what Oscar Robertson did. And then Russell Westbrook comes along and does it 3 times. Like, that's an incredible accomplishment.
He's the most ball-dominant player of all time. Now, him and Harden, the most ball. Are you trying to tell me if Magic wanted to average a triple-double, if Bird wanted to average a triple-double? Like, today's player is about stats. It's about, look at what I'm doing. Magic and Bird didn't give a damn. Are you trying to tell me LeBron is averaging a triple-double? Do you really think Larry Bird went, hey, how many assists do I need for a triple-double? Come on.
You don't think this year, Dan, it crossed LeBron's mind to average triple-double? You don't think he's leading the league in assists as the game stopped? He's over 10 per game.
No, I think it's leading the league in assists. I think that was important for him. Absolutely. But are you trying to tell me LeBron couldn't average a triple-double every single year?
He hasn't. Like, what? Like, you don't think he hasn't tried? Like, you don't think that's been in his mind ever? Come on, let's get real. Like, of course, LeBron's the guy that's been chafing at not winning MVPs over the year. I've talked to Laker teammates. I wrote a story about this a month ago where I've asked them, like, does the MVP matter to LeBron? And every to a man, they all say it did. So individual accomplishments and accolades, of course they matter to him.
Well, yeah, they do. Of course you want to win an MVP. I can understand that. At his age, yes, absolutely. I understand that. That's no big secret. I don't know why. Why am I yelling at you?
You're going to sit there, though. You're going to sit there, though, Dan, and call. Look, I agree. Russell Westbrook is ball dominant, but like he did spend most of his career playing with Kevin Durant, and that's another ball dominant player. So, like, it's not like he had that 1 year or a couple of years where he had to do literally everything. But beyond that, he did have to share responsibility with top-level players, including this past one.
Just look at what Rick Barry did when he won the title. Look at it. Look at his scoring days that he had when he was in the ABA and the NBA. He was one of the great passers of all time.
So Russell Westbrook can't pass when he averages
He can.
more than 10
He's a ball-dominant player. He's
I agree
one
with
of the
that,
top
but
3 of all time. Look at the numbers. Ball-dominant. You got to do stuff with it.
Where does Kobe rank on that list of ball dominant players? Where does Michael rank on that list of ball dominant players? How many years? Did
Not
Michael
like Russell Westbrook.
I agree, not like Westbrook. But let's not pretend there's this Grand Canyon-sized gap between these players as ball dominant.
You would rather have Kobe over Russell Westbrook. You'd rather have Mike over Russell Westbrook. I mean, come on.
Yes.
I don't want this to be about Russell Westbrook.
We're
I
talking
said
Rick Barry, though.
But I'm just saying he won. He won.
Okay. So didn't Bill Wennington's got 3 championships. Great. Like, I mean,
really, that's your comeback. You're better than that.
I'm just saying, I am, but like, you can't say Rick Barry's better than Russell Westbrook because he won, because you haven't put Russell Westbrook on the teams that Rick Barry had.
Rick Barry is a better player, in my opinion. That's all. It's just my opinion. You see, I've seen the guys on the list. All right. I didn't see Mike in play, and I didn't see Bill Russell play. I've seen them all. And I can make an educated assessment of what I see with their games. Rick Barry was a spectacular player. I'll leave it at that. I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings with Russell Westbrook Jr. III, who is, going to win a title, I'm sure, with the Rockets this year. By the way, does the team that wins the title this year get an asterisk by their name?
Not if the playoff format stays the same. And that was a takeaway from the Friday call with the players, that the NBA wanted to have a best of 7 beginning with round 1. I understand it'll be in a neutral location. I understand it'll be different. But if you maintain the integrity of the playoff length, no, there's no asterisk. No more than there would be an asterisk in the 99, 2000 season or any of the work stoppage seasons.
Yeah. I think the season has the asterisk. The team shouldn't be saddled with an asterisk. It's a level playing field for everybody here, like it or not. And I agree. Hey, we agreed on something there. Now, the likelihood of basketball returning with what happened with the commissioner, with this phone call, was there an informal poll that was taken about coming back? So give us some details here on what's true and what's not.
Yeah, I mean, well, look, everything's true that you mentioned. There have been player representatives that have been informally polling players via text message to ask them if they wanted to continue with the season. Now, I talked to several players about this who basically said it's not as simple as yes or no. I mean, there's variables here. There's, what do you do with a positive test? What does the season look like? Where are we playing? Like, if you in a fundamental way, yes, everybody wants to finish the season. Like, if for no other reason, they want to get paid. Like, and that's the biggest part of all this. But it was a strange poll to put out without having all the variables accounted for. I would say this: the other interesting piece of news that I don't think is getting enough attention is that the NBA in select cities is allowing for asymptomatic testing, and that to me is a significant moving of the goalposts on where the NBA initially, what they were telling me privately and other people privately, was where they thought they needed to be in order to start the season. Like, they thought initially it was like, we have to have testing that's just widely available, asymptomatic testing for whoever wants it. Basically, you can walk into a CVS and get tested symptomatic or not. We're clearly not there yet. But for the NBA to tell, I think it's Orlando and the 2 LA teams, I'm sure it's going to be many more in the days and weeks to come. But for them to say asymptomatic testing is okay right now in this current climate, that tells me that they're changing that criteria for what it needs to be when they come back.
I'm also wondering how far can they go into the calendar year here, Chris, with, how long do they stretch it out before it affects next season?
Oh, it's another good point because that's another probably the 1A takeaway I had in the last 4 or 5 days from these calls and information that's coming out. It's abundantly clear that the NBA and their owners don't give a damn about when they start next season. And if that's the case, you can keep kicking the can down the road. I mean, I know there was a report, and I haven't talked to anybody this morning about it yet, about 2 to 4 weeks they'll make a decision. That's the ultimate artificial deadline. I mean, if in 2 to 4 weeks they're not ready to make a decision, if they don't care when next season starts, and for obvious reasons, crowds, whatever, they really don't, they can say, well, we're going to push to mid-July, and even like August. Like, I have some players that firmly believe that they'll go into mid to late October with the season if they have to get it done. So with that knowledge in hand, that's what makes me feel even stronger today than I did last week, that they'll find a way to finish the season.
I didn't even get to the Jordan documentary. And we wasted all this time on the greatness of Rick Barry. Yeah.
The greatness of Russell Westbrook.
You know what? I know you're not doing anything. You're quarantined, probably in Vermont. Why don't you do some research on Rick Barry, and then you come back with a book report and apologize, okay?
I apologize not being chronologically old enough to have seen Rick Barry play. Like, my bad.
You know what? Why don't you be older, Chris? Good to talk to you.
All right, Dan.
Thank you. That's Chris Mannix, Sports Illustrated senior writer.
Really weird system where you hold the ball.
Do you think ESPN was coming up with that top 74 list that they were secretly laughing because they knew that it would upset me?
Right. That's a yes.
Man.
They don't even.
You'd think they would just say, hey, we want to reach out to you because we know you saw these guys play and you're very passionate about it, and we made the mistake by crowning Michael Jordan the greatest college basketball player of all time. Can you help us out, Dan? And I would have done it.
It's the opposite. They saw your reaction after the Jordan thing. This is a sure thing. We're going to make Dan upset.
I shoot better than Russell Westbrook.
You can't take it a hole like you can.
No, I can. That's different. That's not shooting. That's scoring. I'm a better shooter than Russell Westbrook Jr. the third.
I got him.
At my age, I'm a better shooter than Russell Westbrook Jr. the third.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
Imagine when I was his age.
Yeah, he's not a great that's true.
Should have made that, but we'll edit that out.
Mike Vrabel is the head coach of my Tennessee Titans. They, of course, lost to the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game and had a great season. Coach, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great, guys. How are you? I hope everybody's staying safe and being healthy.
What are you benching nowadays, Coach?
Man, it's all push-ups. It's all push-ups and sit-ups, Peloton. That's it.
Really?
I lift enough, man. I got Tyler's at BC. He's offensive lineman, so he's one doing lifting, and I'm trying to stay in that dad bod club.
Do you ever miss hitting somebody?
Yeah. I mean, I think you miss the contact of football, and I think that's why I enjoy getting out there with the players and trying to teach and develop those guys on the field.
How do you keep in touch with your players?
Right now, we just using the teamwork apps, sending text messages, and really the way that we have the meetings scheduled. Through the Zoom, I can walk. It's like I'm walking out of my office. I walk in the O-line meeting at 10. I hang out there and see those guys, visit with that group. That's probably one of my favorite groups, just because of the types of personalities that they have in there and the bond that they have. And then I'll go in and pop in the DB meeting after that. visit with those guys, and kind of work my way around, see the quarterbacks and receivers at noon, outside linebackers after that, and inside linebackers, D-line goes at 11:30. So it's been pretty cool. We've been able to structure those meetings, and the players set the schedule that they wanted to meet, and the coaches are available.
How about the workouts for these players if they don't have a facility to go to?
I think it's important that everybody stays self-motivated during this time. It's not something that we're trying to track. We're trying to be conscious of guys' weight. There's two types of players when you think about our football team or anybody's team that maybe they have to concentrate on not being overweight at this time, maybe a bigger lineman. But then some of these players that have to concentrate on keeping their weight up. And so really, I think they're working. I think that the guys are staying self-motivated. They're getting together. They're communicating with our strength coach, but we're not monitoring those workouts.
Let's talk about the virtual draft, the setup at the house.
At the frat house.
Who scripted that?
I don't think anybody was scripted. I think what happened was the kids were excited like everybody else was, and we got a full house. You know, where Jen and I are here, and Tyler's 19, Jackson's 19, and he's been with us for a year and a half, and Carter's 18, and he's graduating. So it's like lit, and obviously me, it's like a frat house. And I never was in a fraternity at Ohio State, but I can only imagine that this is what it would look like. And so I think when they saw that the kids were on the screen, they wanted to do something fun. They wanted to be a part of it. Next thing I know, I look around, there's a Vrabel jersey from a Pro Bowl. There's a Frozone costume. And again, these guys, I love them to death. They support me. And they just, they were having fun with it.
You kind of stole the draft there for a little bit, because I wasn't sure what was going on.
I certainly wasn't quite sure what was going on either. But, they're good kids, and they're trying to keep their rooms clean and their cars clean and all that other stuff.
And then Belichick had his dog there.
I didn't even know Bill had a dog, but he doesn't strike me as a dog lover.
I was doing some research here. Brady's first career start, that was against the Colts, and you were his teammate. You remember that?
Yeah. 2001.
Yeah, you guys shut down Peyton Manning. Brady's last start with the Patriots, the wild card game, and you're the winning coach there. How weird was that? Did you have any sense that was the last time Tom was going to play for the Patriots?
I wasn't really focused on that. I was trying to focus on preparing our team to go into a place in January that, not too many teams had won. I think they were 20-3 in the playoffs at home.
But looking back on that now.
Tom and I have a unique relationship, having played with him and been his teammate, being friends, and then obviously competing against them. I think it's a unique relationship. He had a great, phenomenal career there, and obviously still wants to play football.
Was he in play at all for the Titans?
Anybody that was available in free agency is available for the Titans. I think that John and I talk about that all the time, is finding ways to improve our team.
Well said. Did you recruit him?
Thank you, Dan. No, you don't. This isn't college football. We draft them and we pay them. This isn't college football where you have to recruit and be on Twitter and all that other stuff.
Well, I think Brady recruited the Buccaneers. It sounds like he was, when I talked to Bruce Arians, it felt like Brady was saying, hey, I want to come there. I'm coming there, basically. Like a kid commits to going to college. It felt like that's what he was doing with Tampa.
Well, I think that looks like he's settled in pretty well down there. I saw his house, and I'm waiting for this thing to be done so I'm going to go visit him and play some golf.
I wanted to ask you, and you told this story a couple of years ago, that I think you made the mistake of saying to Tom in the huddle that you were open, and I'd
gone out for a run. I'd been over on offense for like a week, and so they throw me in there, and I run this route. I'm in the back of the end zone. I'm like, Tom, and I come back in the huddle, and I was like, I was wide open. He goes, Mikey, if you ever raise your hands at me again, I'll never throw you the ball. He's like, I'm the quarterback. I know who's effing open. I was like, well said. I got the point. I'm like, Randy always raises his hand. You throw it to him all the time.
Randy Moss is allowed to raise his hand. You weren't allowed to. And did you keep those footballs? What do you have, 10 touchdown receptions?
Again, 12 if you count the Super Bowls. So that's
Wow.
something that obviously was really cool. But the thing that you saw on draft night, like my kids would take those footballs from the Super Bowl and we'd go back to Ohio and they'd be outside playing football. And it'd be like, I don't have any football. There's no jerseys. There's nothing up. Like I'm concentrated on being the best coach I can. I love our players. I miss them to death. I'm not concentrated on, what my career was. That's not going to help us.
Oh, no, I just didn't know if you had those footballs.
No, I couldn't tell you. We've been through 4 or 5 houses since then. It's usually if the rule is if it stays in a box more than 2 moves, it gets thrown out or gets taken.
Wow. How would you do if Derrick Henry was coming through the line?
I would go low. It would be low. I would be low, and I'd look for the stiff arm if I wasn't low.
Who does he remind you of with that style?
I don't know. I mean, I played bigger backs. Jerome Bettis was a bigger back. Eddie George is probably a close comparison just because of the length. Eddie was as a taller back. Jerome was much more compact. He's just very long, and he's fast in the open field. He runs away from a lot of people, and our guys love blocking for him. I love coaching him. He's done a lot of great things for us.
Jerome Bettis would tell me stories. He said that he would hear defensive players grunt or groan after they tackled him because it was just like he knew he was inflicting pain on you.
I mean, he had to be when I was finishing up in Pittsburgh, he had to be 275. I don't know who was bigger, him or LeVon Kirkland.
And this is a running back.
His calves look like grapefruits.
Oh, man. Yeah, I can't imagine. There are guys who, they get small sometimes when those big guys come through the line, and then all of a sudden you kind of fall down or, that somebody got an arm on you and you can't get to the running back.
It's trying to get those guys before they get going, because if they build up a head of steam, if they get through the line, somebody's had a bad day.
It's great to talk to you, Coach, and congrats on the success last year, and hopefully we figured this out at some point, but thank you for joining us.
Well, I certainly appreciate you guys following the Titans. Stay safe out there, guys. Stay healthy.
That's Mike Vrabel. Before the break, McLovin teased a potential bombshell here that had to do with the Danettes working from home and when they would come back. Paulie, of course, is here and about 20 feet away from me. Fritzy has no idea what McLovin and Seton are talking about, but I yield the floor to you, McLovin.
Okay, so when we come back, which will hopefully be very soon, there's going to be a major adjustment, possibly.
For?
The Danettes who have been working remotely. Because when you're on Zoom, there is a mute button, and you are allowed to make any noises you want while the show is going on. So you might be comfortable during a 3-hour radio show to pass gas whenever you want. Just hit the mute button. So now that we're going to be back in studio, that's going to be an adjustment. And there's the Todd Fritz game where we try and guess when Todd is actually doing said activity based on his face. Or adjustments on his seat. So we play that game without him knowing.
Yes,
That's
Seton.
a good game.
Yes, Seton.
Well, I mean, as you know, we've been at this now several weeks. I don't know how it is, right? So there is a certain level of comfort. But see, the problem is that once Andrew, I'm going to give you credit on this. Andrew unleashed the "Is this person farting right now?" game. It's dominated my Zoom sessions where every time that you look here, somebody's just sitting there. You're like, I'm pretty sure Todd just farted.
Wow.
I wish it was that simple, but I'm glad to get into more details if you guys want to open the curtain. If we're comfortable talking about those types of things. There are times because of the condition that I suffer from where something beyond just passing gas is brewing in the middle of the segment. I don't want to walk out in the middle of the segment. So for lack of a better word, holding it in until I hear the lovely words of Dan saying, we'll be back after this, or some form of that so that I can pop off my chair. And thankfully the restroom is right on the other side of this wall.
So it's a bomb smell. It's not a bomb shell. It's a bomb smell.
If it was simple as what George Carlin once called the one cheek sneak, then I could just stay in my seat and do my thing. But I actually have to get up and get somewhere before there's a problem.
George in Arizona. Hi, George. What do you have for me?
Hey, Dan. How you doing?
Good, sir.
Herm Edwards here at Arizona State, my school, he said there are 100 players on his side, 100 players on the other side, 50 ancillary people, 50 ancillary. That's almost 400 people per game. How do you transport them carefully? What do you do? Test them?
I don't know, George. I really don't. And people think that I'm weaponizing this coronavirus. You know, people chat row saying, you know, I'm getting political. I'm just like you. I have questions. I have doubts. I have concerns. I want everybody to go back to normal. I want sports to come back. I hope it comes back. I'd love to be wrong that I'm overly, cautious here. Love to be wrong. If it goes away tomorrow, I will shout from the mountaintops. I apologize. But all I know is when we first got word of this, and I came on the air and said, if this is going to mirror what is happening in Italy, we are in trouble. That's it. It's been a long 2 months for everybody here. I do not talk politics. I don't. I try not to. But that doesn't stop me from talking what I believe or common sense, or if I talk to somebody and I have information here, I have no agenda. I'm not here to change your political beliefs. I just want to talk about it in a way that we can talk about it. Instead of, as soon as I say, oh, well, we know how he voted. You don't know. And that's not what this is about. I'm not trying to win any argument here. Well, you're president or I don't care about that. As God is my witness, I could not care less about that. And even if I was talking politics, I can't change your politics. Nobody's ever changed their politics when somebody is telling them their side. And then you eventually go, oh, you know what? On second thought, you like people you agree with. And vice versa. That's all this is. So if you want to, you're weaponizing this. I'm not. If you want to make this about politics, that's on you, not on me. I just want to understand the entire picture here. This has nothing to do with the president, in my opinion. No matter who the president is. And I want you to know this so we can stop with the rhetoric where it's, politics, you're weaponizing this. Just stop. I won't allow it. I'll allow discussion. And if I'm wrong, I'll be the first to admit it. I'd love to be wrong where we can come back, where we can go to restaurants, where people who have been out of work. I would love for that to happen and go back to being the best country in the world. All of those things. If not, ESPN's got to keep coming up with these damn lists so I have something to talk about every single day. We'll take a break. Last call for phone calls, back after this.
Okay, what you remember the Titans take? Yes or no? Thumbs up, thumbs down?
Okay, I don't remember the Titans.
That's a problem.
Okay, I'm being honest.
Denzel Washington.
Okay.
He coach in, there's a school in Virginia that segregation.
Now, he didn't have the player radio, did he?
No.
Cuba Gooding Jr.?
Different movie.
Okay. What did you learn today, Todd?
Tom Brady didn't appreciate Mike Vrabel waving his arms, flailing open. Tom should be throwing the ball to him.
McLovin?
Mannix said that Russell Westbrook would beat Rick Barry 101. No way.
See,
Mike Vrabel lives in a frat house.
what we learned, brought to you by LegalZoom. They make it easy to set up the right estate plan without leaving your home. Take care of your family today. The right estate plan at LegalZoom.com. Need to make it legal, make it LegalZoom.com. Head coach of the Raptors, Nick Nurse, on the program tomorrow. Talk to you then.